guys, it's Lexi and welcome back to my channel. I have collected 15 books and laid them out in order of 5 5-star reads, 4 4-star reads, and so on. And now I'm going to be presenting them to you. That's it. I'm not really going to go into a whole recap on what they were about because this video would be like 8 hours long. So without further ado, we can go ahead and jump right on in. I'm going to start out with my 5-star reads because we want to start out on a good note because it's just going to go downhill from here. Number 1 is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. This is a lot in a good way. It's a romance, it's a fiction, a slight mystery, slight thriller, a lot of heavy heartache, and you kind of end this book really thinking about everything the characters have gone through. You end up rooting for these characters both as people and to be in a relationship together, and I just love so much about this. I feel like if you haven't read this yet, maybe you've heard about it for good reason. It's different from a typical rom-com, and sometimes that's what we need, is a little change of pace. The next one is The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. This is part of her Once Upon a Broken Heart romantasy series with princes and magic and curses and all that jazz. There's so much in this. One thing I will say is it's very unusual of me to give a fantasy or romantasy a 5-star read. So the fact that I did for this one says you should go read it if you haven't. While you're at it, maybe pick up Caraval because that series comes before this one. Anyways, this one deserves all the hype it's getting. My next 5-star read is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Miss Girl is a romance, very strong romance, but also very contemporary, LGBTQ. A lot goes on in this. Okay, Kat. Red, White, and Royal Blue is a contemporary LGBTQ romance, and it takes place between the president's son and like the prince of some country, nation. I don't know. But it's one of my favorite romance reads of all time. It's like the first rom-com that I ever read, and then when it turned into a movie, I was sold, and I have fallen in love with these characters. Their romance, solid enemies to lovers, if I do say so myself. Although, were they ever really enemies, or were they just secretly in love with each other? My next 5-star read is Thick of Fog by Caleb Mason. This has a little bit of everything. It is fiction, mystery, thriller, family problems, my cat being annoying. If you want to step outside of your comfort zone, but you still want to read something that feels true to what you like, this is a great book. I think this has something that'll interest literally everybody under the stars, and I highly recommend. Also, look at how pretty the cover is. How could you not want to store this on your shelf? And my final 5-star read is Funny Story by Emily Henry. Rom-com, yes, very strong romance, a little bit of YA themes to it. But the reason why this romance rated 5-star to me is because I related to the characters so much and it felt very realistic. In any romance that I feel like I can connect to both the characters like that, immediate 5-star for me. Especially the males. Lots of times I don't connect to the males, but Funny Story got the ticket. 5-star is over, now I can move on to 4. Here are my 4-star reads. I'll talk about the biggest one first, which is Rebel Witch by Kristen Cicerelli. In case you can't tell by the general vibe, this is a very strong fantasy, romantasy situation. I mean, it's a solid romance and it's a solid fantasy. The magic system was very interesting, very different from other magic systems. And like, there's not much to say. I don't have much critique. It just didn't wow me in the nuanced, creative, unwritten before factor, but everything else, highly recommend. Now, I know this is a very loved 5-star for a lot of people. For me, it's like a 4.5. It could be a 5. There were just a few things that I didn't like that the characters were doing or that felt unrealistic to me, that I couldn't relate to them on that aspect, so that's why it wasn't like a strong 5. But everything else, this is a very solid rom-com, and this is kind of what put Emily Henry on the map for good reason. So I have nothing negative to say about this. There were just some aspects that maybe I would have changed. Still very much so love her. Next is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This would also probably be more of like a 4.5. This is a very strong fantasy. There's a subplot of romance, but it's not like the biggest thing to me. And it's a more darker fantasy. A lot of fantasies do have very dark like subplots and things going on, but this, like, the whole vibe, just look at the cover. And I ate that up. I loved that. It felt very creative to me. There were just some things that I didn't enjoy, like the name of our main character, Elspeth Spindle. Just some little things that I would have changed. But besides that, will always recommend this. And my last 4-star read is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. The 7-Year Slip is a fiction romance I mean, it's not a fantasy, it's a romance, but there is like a magic aspect in this. And the reason why it's a 4-star and not a 5-star, like a common consensus. The magic system had a lot of plot holes to me, and I was asking a lot of questions that were never answered, and that kind of frustrated me. And for a while, I was able to let it slide, but then we just kept getting more and more added to this magic plot that I needed answers on, and I never got. So like, throwing that out the window, the romance and everything else is fantastic, and I do still 100% recommend this, but if you have questions about how everything works, don't ask me, because I really don't know. But now I can move on to 3-star. Here are my 3-star reads. The first one is Storm and Fury by Jennifer Armentrout. Honestly, it's a shaky 3 at best. It's closer to a 2 than a 3, but we'll let it stay because maybe someone else, maybe I'm just a harsh critic. Hello, airplane. I'm gonna talk over the airplane. So this is a fantasy. There's like a slight romance subplot to it. We're in the perspective of Trinity, and her inner dialogue is very cringy. Like, she makes these comparisons and these metaphors that made me want to put down the book multiple times. And everything else in the book was pretty great. Like gargoyle, angel, demon situation, magic. I was fine with that. When she would go and compare things to Texas or just... her thoughts were unnecessary half the time, and that's what ruined it for me. I don't think I would recommend this, but maybe if you're younger, because this isn't really adult in my opinion. It's more like teen YA. Give it a shot. Next is Wildfire by Hannah Grace, part of the Maple Hills collection. Now I do love the Maple Hills novel series. I am finishing up Daydream right now, and there's 3 that are out. Wildfire just felt like exactly what it is. They were camp counselors. They fell in love. It's a romance. It's contemporary. Kind of makes sense. I just wasn't rooting for them. It all felt very forced. I think I would still recommend if you want to just read like a cutesy little romance with some heat to it. But if you want to read for the plot and the intricacies of how the relationship came to be, Wildfire may not be the way to start. Maybe Maple Hills in general isn't. You read Maple Hills more for like the romance than the incredible ways they came to fall in love with each other. The next one is The House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. This is in her Crescent City series. This is the second one. Look at how much she had to say. I mean, in case it also wasn't obvious, this is a very strong fantasy, romantasy. There is a huge romance subplot to it. And I get that for a world this intricate, because it's set in a contemporary fantasy world where like fae and vampires can walk down the street on their phone, and there's like a college. Fine, I get that you need to set that up and explain all these things. I really had to force myself to finish this, and I think the reason why it's a 3-star is because I'm proud of myself for reading this much. Honestly, it's better than the third one in the series. We're not even going to talk about that, but if you wanted to try and give Sarah J. Maas a shot, this is like the size of 3 books in ACOTAR, so don't start with Crescent City. So yeah, maybe I don't recommend this, but these are my 3 stars. Now it's time for 2 2-star reads. We'll start with Crossed by Emily McIntyre. This is part of her Never After collection where she writes romances in the perspectives of the villains and our Disney beloved characters. And she does put a little like preface at the beginning that says, hey, you realize I'm writing in the perspective of a villain. They're not going to do moral things. And I guess I just couldn't get past that because this is between Amaya and Father Cade. I forgot what this is an ode to. Like, is it The Hunchback of Notre Dame, I believe? Anyways, the relationship between this father and Amaya. I don't know. The whole father, priest, and student, teacher, subordinate thing has been done a million times, and I kind of hated it. It felt a little disrespectful, and I know villainous things are supposed to be disrespectful, but it felt a little disrespectful to the religion. This was not my favorite, but I did really enjoy Hooked. And I have Hex, which is the Ariel version, so we'll see. My next one is Terms and Conditions, part of the Dreamland Billionaires series by Lauren Asher. The Dreamland Billionaires in general was not my favorite. It kind of felt like a Kings of Sin by Anna Huang, and I honestly like the King one a little better than the Dreamland Billionaires. Specifically this one, it's a forced marriage. So it's romance, it's contemporary, but like they're just marrying because of a contract. This girl's marrying this guy because he has a contract he needs to fulfill. Like, if there's gonna be a forced marriage, put it in a fantasy plot or put it in a way that just doesn't feel like you really wanted to cover this trope. This felt like I was trying to hit every trope under the sun. I would not recommend. The first one is a little better and the third one is a little better. I think the second one's my least favorite in the Dreamland Billionaires. So in general, obviously these are 2 stars, so according to me, I would not encourage you to read them. And now it's time for my 1 star. If you know, you know. I feel like I should not talk about this too much anyways. It's a romance between a girl and 3 other men at the same time who she's not related to by blood, but is related to. She goes to live with her father's stepbrother. That stepbrother has 2 sons. ... Ugh, 1 star. I don't even, like, reading it, half of it I would just be disgusted by, and then I'm not gonna talk about it anymore. 1 star, get out of here. Anyways, that is my collection. Honestly, and obviously this isn't all the 5 stars that I've ever read and whatnot. There are a ton of books that I love. I just try to include some ones that are a little different from what I usually talk about. I think if I had to pick like a God tier book, I get it. Some people may not agree, but I just have so much love associated with this and so much like comfort when I look at it and think about the movie. So I think this is always gonna be like my baby. And then anything Caleb Mason, he has Young Again by him. This is his pen name, Don Troughton and Valerie McKee. This is a interesting magic fiction situation. It kind of reminds me of the 7-Year Slip with like the magic vibe of it all. This is like an honorary 5-star mention. Anyways, I think that sums up my general thoughts. If you've taken anything from this, pretty much everything 3-star and up-ish would 100% recommend. 2-star and down, if you want to talk to me about them, I do not have nice things to say. With that being said, that brings me to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.